Hey, welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri, and my next guest is one of the most fantastic actresses out there right now. You've seen her in shows like The Americans, Younger, High Maintenance. You've seen her on stage in plays like Sweat, The Wild Party, Scarcity, and now you can see her in the very powerful new Netflix film, Lost Girls, as well as the upcoming FX series, Mrs. America. Very excited to talk to Miriam Shor. Thank you so much for being here.
Such high praise. I was like,
did you like it? Yeah?
Like, yes.
Congratulations on Lost Girls, working with Liz Garbus and telling this story.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly powerful film and an incredibly complex one, which I think is what is, for me, was such a draw. You know, we so often tell the stories not from the victim's perspective, but from the hero's perspective, and we rarely want to tell a complex story about a victim and about the way that they are approached.
Yeah.
Can you talk about your character and what kind of conversations you had with Liz about this woman?
I mean, yeah, we do have this love of true crime. I think the crime becomes the main character, and we're riveted by it, and we forget that these are people.
Absolutely.
And that's
one of the things that's grossed me out about the true crime.
Yeah, but you can't help but be fascinated. I understand it. I don't fault people for it, but because I'm fascinated too. You can't help it. It's human nature. But
you throw me in a hotel room, I might watch American Justice.
You just,
like, I can't help
I know,
it.
with the voiceovers and also I think we have this need. One of the part of the reason we do it, I think, to feel in control of it somehow, because it's terrifying, you know. And if we can control it and control the narrative, then we feel a little bit safer. And if we can find the outcome, a lot of these have, you know, an outcome that's like, and then he was caught and put in jail or whatever, whereas this doesn't, and up front it says it's an unsolved American tragedy. And I think the humanity of the women involved was something that was very important to Liz and to all of us, and the fact that I was playing a person who is real, who really lost her daughter, you know, was so important to how I approached it, and I put a lot of trust in Liz Garbus because she's brilliant. And her vision was so strong, you know, and clear to me what she was trying to say. I mean, which was that, you know, these women should be heard.
Well, the idea that the humanity being important makes so much sense, because what a lot of the film felt like it was about to me was how their humanity wasn't important at that time. Both the women who were the bodies who were found and the mothers of those women that were found. And in returning that humanity, I think what's so smart that Liz does is she doesn't just make them heroes and think that that is human. She makes them actually very complex, flawed people.
Well, I think one of the pluses of her being this brilliant documentary filmmaker is that flaws and imperfections, which are inherent in humanity, are interesting to her. And that's part of being a really good documentary filmmaker. And so she didn't shy away from that in the narrative feature. And that's what makes her special as a director too, is that she's not just comfortable with that. She's fascinated and interested in it, because that is what's interesting about people, you know. And that's what drives the story, is that as imperfect as all these people were, they were people. And they still share humanity with the rest of us, so they should not be dismissed. Their deaths shouldn't be dismissed. Their loved ones shouldn't be dismissed as they were. They shouldn't be a statistic or a term like prostitute. You know, that might make us feel safer, because somehow putting some of the onus on the victim, and then that could never happen to us because we don't do that. You know, so that might be why people need to compartmentalize it and consistently say these were prostitutes, instead of saying they were people who were found. They were, you know, people found murdered. And then the women who were looking for them, the people who were their loved ones, who were saying, this person is missing. This person was my daughter, to just be treated as an irritant at best, you know, was infuriating.
And to have to grapple with the idea that while you're searching for your missing child, the news, the police are not just telling you that you don't matter, but they're telling you that they're not an innocent.
Oh no,
and you're not an innocent. So therefore, as much as a person would fight against that and be like, that's not true, that seeps in, and that then in turn creates a tragic amount, I think, of probably self-doubt and consciousness.
Well, look, no parent is perfect.
Of course.
All parents have to make choices that are difficult, and these women were no exception. They made some very difficult choices. They had difficulties in their lives that were, you know, to some might even seem insurmountable, and yet they had to. Their lives just had to continue. They had to go on. And the guilt that comes along with the choices that you make as a parent, as a mother, is ever present, even if you are the perfect mother. So, that line where she says, I'm her mother, it's all on me, means I put it all on me. You put it all on me. Everybody puts it all on me. And I can't escape that. So she's, Mari Gilbert and the character I play, Lorraine, and all of the women involved in this have to grapple with, sure, their own senses of guilt and how could I not have protected this person I love. But when you go to the authorities whose job is supposedly to protect and to serve, and they shake off any obligation and treat you like you're less than a human, that's when you start to feel enraged when you read about it, which was how I felt when I read the script. And that's when someone like Mari Gilbert and like all these women who bonded together and refused to be silenced, they really showed that you can be heard if you just persist. And I'm glad I had some small part in sort of bringing that to light.
What was it like working with Amy Ryan? Because she's been in here a few times, and one of my favorite things to do with Amy, whether she knows this or not, is refer to her as National Treasure Amy Ryan, because she's also
simply because she is
humble person who clearly does not not comfortable with it.
Listen, I've known Amy for a long time, and you might think she's humble, but that's actually her wallpaper in her whole apartment is Amy Ryan as National Treasure, just all the way down. Yeah. And then all of her awards, and then just huge pictures of herself. That's just her whole apartment. So it's a little known fact. No, she's really incredibly humble, especially when she's just so talented. To be able to, and to have been a friend of hers for so long, and we never worked together. Oh, wow. So to be able to be in this project in particular with her was really special. Getting to do scenes with her, those scenes where she's relentlessly honest and dropped in and truthful and in the moment. And that's just who she is as an actor, which is why I think we all respond to her so strongly. And to be in a scene with someone like that is really powerful.
When someone is like that, honest and dropped in and in the moment, does that also mean that in between takes they don't really come out of it or pop out of it, or is it just kind of like they are in tune and they are focused and it keeps you focused as well?
Well, I can't speak to all of Amy's films, sure. But in this one, she.
In your experience,
in my experience with her and my own experience as an actor, it varies project to project. But for this one, it's very hard to shake this story from yourself because it is true. And we were filming parts of it very close to where it actually happened. And we are, Amy and I are both mothers, and as well as some of the other actresses. And you can't just walk away from how you internalize that when you're inhabiting that person. And I don't know that you should, right? Yeah. But at the same time, to have someone is a great friend with you on set. And be surrounded by these women, including Liz and Anne, Carrie, our producer, and all the other actresses, Lola Kirk. I mean, these are fantastic actresses. It was a really great group of women, and we really were able to bolster each other throughout it as friends, and it felt really powerful to be in that group. And also we were sort of channeling the power that these actual women found in each other. So I think between takes we were able to help each other be wherever we needed to be, which is whether it be, really locked into that moment or needing to shake it off for a second so we could get back to it, and feel a little refreshed. We were able to be there for each other. And we definitely had a great time being together,
You're directing now, right? What are you directing? Excuse me.
Okay. So I directed 2 different seasons. I directed an episode of Younger.
Right.
And that was pretty fantastic, and it sort of sparked something in me that was like, oh, I like this kind of storytelling. So, I've since directed a short film, and I'm working on other projects now and sort of developing that part of myself, which is interesting when you come to...
What did you like about it?
So much. I like telling people what to do. Yes, but I also like, I've always had opinions and ideas, and as an actor, you funnel that into what you do. But I like to pay attention to what else is going on around me, and I have ideas about how we could solve that problem, or how we could go creatively that way. And
Which are things that you kind of have to, you can do as an actor, but you kind of also have to shut off a
well,
little
there's
bit.
times when you're not in the scene and you need to maybe shut it. But
you don't want to get in the way of what other people are doing.
no,
And then
you don't.
Yeah.
And it's as I went and tracked my career, I kept coming up with instances of people being like, yes, you're not directing this, so let's, and I was like, oh, I guess I always wanted to and just didn't even know that it was a possibility. But more and more, I saw friends of mine who were actors or in other parts of the industry becoming directors, and noticing those were male people, and that some were female, but far more were male. And it was this moment where we're having a global conversation about feminism and about women and their place in art and their place in every part of the world. And I just was like, well, if I believe women should be doing this and should be asking to do this, I'm a woman, shouldn't I? And I had to sort of soul search and be like, is this something I want? And if it is, why have I not asked before? And why don't I ask? I mean, the worst they can say is no, you know? So
Why do you feel like you hadn't asked before?
that was the question. That was what I had to ask myself. I think I just didn't have the agency, and there's so many reasons, you know, that have to do with just confidence and availability. And you have to kind of, to be on a show that goes this many seasons, you have sometimes, not everybody, but you can have an opportunity to do this. So I hadn't had a show that had gone like that. And then on the other hand, I also did I believe I deserved a shot at it, you know? And I don't think I necessarily did. And I sort of convinced myself that, well, yeah, I guess, I'm not that interested anyway. So I just thought, well, this is an opportunity that's in front of me in this moment, at this time. I should take advantage of it if I can.
It's so interesting, the question of, do I deserve the opportunity to do this? It's a extremely limiting question that goes nowhere and is unnecessary, right? It's that piece of your brain that's talking you out of doing something.
Absolutely. I do think it's a question you can examine when there's somebody else who might get an opportunity if you don't.
Oh, you can throw it on anybody else that you...
Right? No, I mean, there is a thing of like, if I'm always the one who gets heard, is there somebody who never gets heard who might need an opportunity? So it's not a terrible question, but if you don't examine the question, you just ask it and just assume that you shouldn't. Never assume it, right?
I thought that you meant judging others as not deserving of things.
No, I meant more deserving. Oh, that's funny that we came to it that way.
That's why I was like, oh, you can absolutely use it to judge other people.
No.
Not
I
yourself,
meant more
though.
that well, yeah, that's a part of it. When you see someone who you're like, well, okay, well, I think I could do that. Kind of liken it to when I moved to New York and I was like, can I do this? And then you just see everyone on the subway and you're like, I mean, they're all doing it. Some of them I'm sure are exceptional and some of them are just, like me. So, they can do it. I can do it.
Did you also find that when you started acting as well, when that maybe you got on stage with someone that you revered, and then all of a sudden you saw them making the same mistakes?
Being a human being.
Yeah, that you might make, and it's like, oh, we're just all working on this thing.
Yeah, that's part of experience, right? That's the benefit of doing it for a while, is that the more times that happens to you, the more you can examine it and be like, and kind of let go of all those insecurities, hopefully. That's the idea. Or they plague you forever. That's one of the great things about being experienced, about having experience, and having a few years under your belt. And also, that was helpful for me as a director, was that I'd been on a set for decades at that point. So I understand a set, and while someone who may have come from film school understands the camera lenses better than I do, I understand the logistics of this part of the puzzle. They understand the logistics of that part of the puzzle. And there's a great deal of delegating that happens on set because you have people who know exactly what to do in their jobs, and you can say, this is you're the expert, help me get to this. This is my vision. It was a great learning experience. And I'm glad that I asked that question. I think I encourage everybody to, because what do you have to lose?
Absolutely. You're also going to be in this upcoming FX show, Mrs. America, right? Tell me about that.
Few people.
Right, Margot Martindale.
Margot Martindale, who plays Bella Abzug, which I was like, I must play Bella Abzug. Okay, no, Margot Martindale should. It was like every feminist icon from the 70s. Cate Blanchett, playing the non-feminist icon of Phyllis Schlafly, examining when the attempted passage of the ERA, why it didn't pass. I think that's a really interesting exploration. And Tracy Ullman playing Betty Friedan, and I played her best friend, and first to get to just be on a set with Tracy Ullman.
Yeah.
She's someone I have looked at. She's an exceptional performer and an exceptional person, it turns out. Yay. You know, I mean, it's always so great when you meet your idols and they're brilliant people as well as brilliant performers. Yeah, and you're like, oh, it's possible. I've always loved her work. I've always loved her risks that she's taken. So to get to work with her was kind of amazing, you know. And then Rose Byrne playing Gloria Steinem, you know, I'd worked with her before on Damages, and she's a delight of a human. And to get to work with her in that capacity, I just was like, I got to be a part of this somehow. When I heard about this project, I was like, I must somehow be a part of this. And I'm really glad that I was.
What was that set like? Every day must have been like, oh, Margot's here, Kate's here.
We had a table read, and it was like 8,000 people crammed around a table, and you're just looking around like, oh my God, this is fantastic. This is everybody I'd want to be in a room with, you know? It was really, really fun. I mean, it was massive. It was a massive undertaking. I think I was like in episode 4, and I was like number 400 on the call sheet. There are a lot of people in this. Wow. And it looks, I've done a little ADR, and it looked great, and I've seen the promos, and it looks amazing. I'm really looking forward to the conversation this sparks too, and why can't we pass an amendment that says women are equal to men? What's the problem here? Why was it a problem, and why were there women who opposed it? Yeah, you know, it's a really fascinating question that is very timely.
Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts about that these past couple days, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's true.
But so I want to ask, I mean, in regards to this is kind of a political question, but not really. You starred in Sweat, the Lynn Nottage play, which won a Pulitzer.
It was her second one.
It was her second
No, well, I mean,
Pulitzer?
you need the pair. You know what I mean? Like once you get
can't just
one,
win
if
one.
like something is off balance, I'm gonna go for 2. I'm gonna go
The
for
first
2.
one for Intimate Apparel?
Gosh, you know, no, I can't remember.
I know they're doing an opera.
They're doing the
Intimate
opera.
Apparel
I
at Lincoln
saw
Center
that.
right now.
I know.
think
I'm
it's at
really
Lincoln-
excited.
I think I'm gonna have to go. I've only read Intimate Apparel. I've never actually.
Oh, really?
Seen it. Yeah.
All of her plays approach things that you're like, ooh, how are you gonna write a play about that?
Did you see her Ivory play?
Which one?
The one about ivory trading?
No, I haven't.
Incredible.
Well, how are you going to write a play about that?
And
then
she did
she's
it.
like, watch me.
She's so like a marvelous distiller.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like the scenes are deceptively simple, but like what most people don't realize about drama is that it takes a large amount of just innate talent to be able to do that, and work and thought.
Yeah, and I loved watching her because she just didn't seem afraid to attack something or dissect something more than attack it. Really, really look at it. She didn't seem afraid of that. And when you're someone who second guesses a lot and third and fourth and fifth guesses, it's really
You deserve this.
well, I know. Well, it's interesting to watch someone be like, well, why not? This is what I do. I write plays. Why would I not write a play about something as thorny as this? Right. And then when we were doing Sweat, it was during the election.
Which was almost not intentional, right? Because it was being workshopped or being written.
No, no, I don't think anybody could intentionally be like, well, clearly Trump's going to be elected president, so let's do this during this time in November. I don't think that's what people were thinking. Yeah. And I think that her play brought up the thoughts and issues that maybe we definitely should have been thinking about. And the difference between being on stage doing that play before the election and after was so tangible. Like a play is a conversation with the people on stage, the audience, the playwright, the director. It's happening live and it's visceral. So when something is that powerful that's going on in the world outside, it's brought into the theater. And we were discussing on the stage in the story what was happening in Middle America, and then the election happened, and it was a very powerful moment. I think Lynn, in some way, could see what was happening, and we weren't, and the rest of a lot of people weren't paying attention. And she was like, "No, you have to pay attention," and she was right.
Yeah, which she's done with all of her plays, or a lot of her plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's the job of an artist. On some level, you should be paying attention to this.
Did you know of her prior to Sweat? Like, how did you work on that play? How did that come about?
I mean, I auditioned. Kate Wierisky was directing it. I knew her, But yeah, no, I tend to have to audition. You know, I guess people know who I am, but at the same time, like I'm a working actor who, and I'm not really afraid to audition. On the one hand, I feel like if this is your project and you need to know if I'm the right person for it, let's work on it and see if I'm the right person for it. I don't really feel like I need to be like, my agent's screaming right now, pulling their hair out. No, I don't really know if I need to be the person who's like, we must absolutely offer it to me only. I having done projects of my own, I know the value of really working with someone and seeing if this feels right for them too, not just for you as a creator.
Right. The audition isn't necessarily like a tape that you send in. It's also a conversation to figure out if the two of you jive well.
Right, and certainly for plays, it's you're in person usually, not always, but
it's a few months that you're going to be working together.
Yeah, and we all want to get it right. You know, we all want to make it the best we can. You know.
How long were you in rehearsals on Sweat before you even went into previews?
I mean, I think it was 3.5 weeks. It's short.
That's not bad.
It's short for a play. I mean, look, you don't really rehearse in movies and TV. You're lucky if you get to rehearse a day. You know what I mean? But plays are different. The play comes together. The rehearsal process is paramount. It is the play. You can't have the play without the rehearsal process, because that's when the structure of the play really happens. You know, the three-dimensionality of it happens. Otherwise, it would just be a two-dimensional drawing. Yeah. So the rehearsal process is when you build on it and build on it and build on it and turn it into something that's three-dimensional.
All the actors get comfortable with the dialogue. They can start sort of figuring out how to say it loosely. They can understand what they're saying rather than just sort of say it.
Yeah, it's a very different creature than the other than film or television. And the rehearsal process is one of my favorite things. That, and then having a live audience there. You know. Do
you have a trick to get yourself to that place on a film set? That same place that you would feel going into the opening night of a play, where you feel loose and totally comfortable with it?
No, I mean, it's kind of a letting go, right? Like it's kind of a dropping of all the internal drama that you just have to like throw away and just go with. You have to be right in the moment. And the good news is, I feel like because of the minute details that film and television can pick up, you can let go of it a little bit, whereas on stage, there's a lot more physicality that has to be a part of it, because you're using your whole body and the whole space all the time. There are no close-ups, you know? So it's, and you have to, even your speaking voice has to be different. You have to be heard, you know? You can't whisper usually in a play. You won't be heard, but you have to be able to convey what a whisper is and still be heard, you know? So there's a physicality to it that is different. And on a film or a television set, you can get a moment, right? And capture it, and it's over, it's gone, but we got it on film. In a play, you have to be able to find that moment every single night on some level. So that's why that's where the practice comes in.
Oh, we have a question from Twitter. It's, hello there, Miriam.
Hi.
Thank you for your work in this film with such heavy material. Are there any rituals or habits you develop pre or post being on set to keep you sane, stable, while working on a project like this?
That's a great question, first of all.
I love their
girliest girl in a whole
stepmoms forever.
Aw. That makes my heart goes out to you. That's great. It's a great question. And my answer is that it depends. It differs on every project. So there's something ritualistic about doing 8 shows a week in a play. So I do develop rituals that on each play that I do that are sort of different depending on who I'm working with, who's in my dressing room, you know, who the stage manager is, what my props are, and it all just evolves based on what kind of helps me get into place as the show starts. And then for TV and film, again, it depends on the character. For Lost Girls, I mean, oftentimes it'll revolve around a particular costume piece, you know, that I just have that just kind of grounds me or reminds me who this character is to myself, you know. And I for Lorraine and Lost Girls, it was this set of sunglasses that I just felt like, and it's innocuous. It seems innocuous, but for me, it just became a touchstone, you know. It just reminded me that, like, oh, I'm gonna grab these, I'm gonna put these on, and now I feel like her. It just sets me. But you know, it's different for every project. You know, when you're singing, and if you're in a musical, a lot of times it has to do with like how you prepare vocally for that.
do vocal warm-ups and everything.
Yeah,
beforehand.
or sometimes there's a song, that you might listen to. Yeah, it just differs on every project.
Do you find those sunglasses that you take on, when you take them off when you're done, do they pull you out of?
Lorraine, Lost Girls was one that it wasn't as easy as taking off a pair of sunglasses, and the it wasn't like I wasn't Lorraine and then I put the sunglasses on and suddenly I was. It was more just like a reminder to be true to who that person was. Just a little mnemonic device for me, emotionally. But no, there are, certainly for Diana Trout on Younger, when I take Diana's clothes and makeup and hair and the hair and that's all gone, I no longer feel like her. That needs to be on me to really feel like her, because there's constraint to that. There is a restraint, there's a heaviness, there's a discomfort that she walks through the world with, that also is her armor, that changes the way I move my body, and so it changes the way I process things, whereas I'm very schlumpy in my real life and comfortable, and I want to be. It's positive for me to be comfortable. So, I don't automatically feel that slight irritant that kind of takes me to a level, and pulls me up and, gets me ready for battle. I'm never ready for battle in my actual life. I'm like, oh, battle, wait, what?
I'll go that way.
Yeah, right. Duck and cover.
Miriam, I love your work so much.
Thank
you so much
you.
for talking to me. Lost Girls is coming to Netflix
on Friday.
on this
13th.
Friday.
Yeah.
And when does Mrs. America come to FX?
Early April. I don't know the exact date. Yeah.
Early April.
Yeah.
So let's be on the lookout for that. Miriam Shor, thanks so much for being here. It's
Thanks
been a
for
pleasure
having
talking
me.
to you.
My pleasure too.
Yeah.